Welcome back to the SSL, everybody. Of course, the StarCraft Starleague over here at EsportsTV. My name is Valdez. I'm joined by Wolf, who just had a coughing fit.
I did.
But he has survived.
I survived. I thought I was going to die, but everything's okay. We're going to the final set of the night, and this is obviously the one everyone was waiting for. Now, FanTaSy, huge fan favorite player. I mean, against almost any other player, everyone would root for him 100% because he's so famous from StarCraft 1. Even if you didn't follow him in StarCraft 1, because of all the hype, you feel like you know him from StarCraft 1 because everyone talks about it all the time.
It's a famous name, even if you haven't watched any of his games.
But his performances so far in individual leagues and in team leagues for StarCraft 2 have been pretty weak. He has...
Pretty weak is a weak way to play to say it, actually. You know, it's hard to actually be hard on this guy because he's so famous, and he used to be one of the best in the world for so long.
They actually should have just put up his individual league performances from Brood War in that stat sheet, man. It looks so sad and lonely with the 1 round of 16. MarineKing, on the other hand, got second place in another GSL, just like you'd expect. And all the rest of his results are from sub 2012, like when he won MLG. It was the only tournament that he was able to win. And then, of course, he won the Arena, which is like a smaller LAN. Still counts as a championship. And then, of course, what he's famous for is his second place in World Championship to MVP, is a loss as well in the 2011 Codes. And then an open season, his debut, where he's actually used the ID Boxer, where he lost to ST on Game 7. Best game of StarCraft I've ever seen. I love that moment. It's my favorite moment of StarCraft 2 history ever, when he pulls the SCVs in favorable positions, but ST still holds. Sickest game ever. But I
remember that game too, man.
He's
long time ago.
He's back to form. He really is. He took a rough loss in Pro League recently to Dark. Dark just kind of outclassed him. But you know, I favor him here highly. Actually, against FanTaSy.
As I would. You know, FanTaSy is joining now foreign team Dead Pixels, so maybe he's starting to get some practice and starting to, like, you know, reform himself and try to be a StarCraft 2, you know, really big guy to mess with and stuff, and really make his name big in StarCraft 2 as well. But going into the maps, we do have a Deadwing ban here for FanTaSy and a Foxtrot Labs ban here for MarineKing. Now, both of these guys are Terrans, so usually in mirror matchups, it's really just a matter of preference based on, you know, what maps you want to ban. You know, maybe FanTaSy wants to be a bit more aggressive, so he's banning a big map like Deadwing. And MarineKing, that's a big 2-player map there in Foxtrot Labs.
No Nimbus bans, interestingly enough. And the ban on Foxtrot Labs, I feel like it's because of how the third base works on the map, maybe. He doesn't want to deal with ground armies that way. I have no idea what sort of style in TVT we're going to see out of MarineKing. Most of the MarineKing games we've seen in recent times have actually been TVPs. Although we did play against Dark recently. Did not play as well as we would have hoped. But Dark kind of crushed him there. But let's see how he plays here in a TVT against FanTaSy. FanTaSy, we haven't seen him in a long time. Let's hope he's in form. Let's go into game number 1.
Down here in the bottom right, in the red, you were saying a big fan favorite is FanTaSy.
There he is. The terrorist Terran, as they call him. And to the top left, in blue, the King of Marines. It's MKP, always now known as MVP MarineKing.
Yep.
Still uses the handle MKP, though, on his Twitter.
It's what he's famous for. He was on Private for so long.
Yep. And, you know,
saw terrorists there. That's all I read.
I'm telling you, man. Had all these.
Yeah, you weren't joking. I'm actually curious to see how FanTaSy qualified. Took out Ryung. Was able to defeat Hero.
Yep.
In the winners bracket match.
Yep.
Unbelievable,
and
actually.
Beat DRG as well, although DRG certainly has not been on form. DRG's streaming right now, too, by the way. What's he doing stream when SSL's on?
DRG.
He was like, there's no more Zerg, so it's only TVT. I'll start my stream now. You can see MarineKing beat Ragnarok. I didn't actually see the rest of those results, though, but you guys can look them up. There's a lot of, actually, these matches were broadcast.
Yeah, I still cannot believe that FanTaSy beat Hero. I did not actually remember that result. Pretty insane.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either. I know that MarineKing lost to Parting, for example, because he played really greedy and Parting punished him. But let's see how these two players open up in TVT. A little bit of a faster gas here for FanTaSy.
Yeah, gas first. He's going to be able to get that factory down ASAP. Possibly be a bit more aggressive. Also sending out that scout. Whereas MarineKing, just a bit standard. He's got that barracks first. Going to go with the Reaper expand.
Proxy factory. Outside the base? No, okay. Just checking. I was like, what? Why would you build that there?
It's like a Maka factory.
Okay, so never mind. I was getting a little surprised there for a second. Now, both these players are actually famous for something called, I guess the Brood War scene on Team Liquid became to call it GG timing, which is the point in which you actually leave the game and type GG. And both of these players like to stay in the game until the game is like actually statistically impossible to beat, like less than 0%. So that's why we were making jokes about that earlier. FanTaSy is like famous for like floating his buildings for a second before he like actually decides to leave the game. So just something to keep in mind, which would be hilarious if we have, you know, something like that occur in this series where neither player wants to leave the game. So we have a Hellion coming out here from FanTaSy, his factory that he built in his main base, not randomly to the side of his base.
Yeah. MarineKing's already got his expansion coming up here, CC on the low ground. So if FanTaSy is not able to do a considerable amount of damage, MarineKing definitely can get ahead in economy and ahead in the game. This Reaper Scout is probably going to be pretty good. I mean, it's coming around the left side, not towards that lip. It's just going to try to come in the front here, where there are actually two Marines waiting.
Oop. Now MarineKing knows, or excuse me, FanTaSy knows how to position his units. Make sure that Reaper doesn't come in and scout. Just going to control the ramp. Doesn't really have any concerns about the lip, because by the time the Reaper goes over there, he would have come up already. So now he knows, okay, he's coming around the lip, so he can position his Marines appropriately. He's actually not doing it, though, surprisingly. So his build will be 100% scouted. Oh, no units here, but a bunch of tech units. I bet he's doing a drop.
Yeah. MarineKing should be 100% ready for this. Or at least know it's coming. He is making a Viking now, so can't say he's pretty aware of this coming his way. Going to be used to snipe down that medevac here.
Yeah, just needs to pull his SCVs away from the natural. It's actually just going to ignore the nat. Widowmine, let's see how much it gets done. He tries to get the Widowmine to hit his own Marines, but it fails. And reinforcing Hellions are going to make this push really strong. These Marines are going to start hitting on that CC, and he actually traps these SCVs down here because MarineKing didn't pull those away. Good Hellion shot there, but the Viking that you were talking about is going to start getting those shots off with some good range. Scan goes down as well to eliminate that Widowmine.
I don't know, and FanTaSy is actually still winning this fight.
Yeah.
He does lose that medevac, and now the Viking will land, but it's going to be taken out by some Marines. Although FanTaSy does not have any help here from any reinforcements. So.
Yeah, and the medevac, of course, being gone means these Marines are not going to be as effective.
So what FanTaSy decides to do, he's like, okay, I've done a lot of damage. He killed, I think, 2 or 3 SCVs and killed a bunch of units as well. And so he's just going to make 2 CCs and try to get ahead in that way. Damage his opponent's economy while making his own economy much better.
I like MarineKing's position a lot better. He's got the eBay up early. He can start going to upgrades if he wants to bio. He has the CC still mining at the low ground and has double meals dropping faster, whereas FanTaSy's Orbital is just now finishing up. He's also got the faster siege tank. Actually, no, he didn't make a siege tank yet. Excuse me, he's just now starting that. But the +1 that he's getting here is going to put him massively ahead. And he's even going to scout the 3rd CC right now with his Viking. And he has the air control first. So,
he actually didn't scout that.
Oh, wow, yeah, you can see it.
Wow. Now taking a bit of extra damage. It's going to be taken out by FanTaSy's Viking here. Bit of a miss micro there, trying to get some more scouting information. So technically, I guess you can say FanTaSy has taken air control. Of course, that can change rapidly.
Right, and this is,
you know,
this is so early in the game that it's not that significant yet.
Yeah.
We're talking about like 1 Viking versus 0, you know. But MarineKing has a reactor on his starport now. Probably going to make some medevacs before he goes into Vikings because he just wants to be able to get those drops going because he's going to this bio comp that he's already got heavily upgraded. We saw MarineKing do this weird TVT style versus Maru, where he made like a ton of Vikings in Pro League last season.
Oh yeah,
that was really weird. I'm glad to see that he's realized that that's not viable.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. That was towards the end of MarineKing's fall, and then we just didn't see him for a while, and then he came back.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he's back at least.
Well, that third CC has gone unpunished. So FanTaSy is starting to get the worker count up pretty high. Already passing MarineKing by 2. And with triple harvester production, that's just going to get worse and worse for MarineKing as time goes on. As well as the fact that he has triple mules now as well. So MarineKing is going to have to try to utilize his advantages in that faster medevac tech. And of course also in this +1.
Second scan hits like everything once again. It hits the army composition, the third base timing, as well as all the buildings in the main. So really nice scan here by FanTaSy once again.
FanTaSy loves to scan. And being the StarCraft pro, and actually, like, some of you guys don't know this because I know a lot of you didn't follow Brood War, but he's like the last Brood War pro to be in StarCraft 2. He switched last. He was in the OSL, the last OSL finals. Like, he was practicing StarCraft 1 until someone put a sword in StarCraft 1's head. Like, he was at the very end of StarCraft 1. So that's part of the reason why he struggled to transition to StarCraft 2 as well, because these other Kestrel pros have been playing for so much longer than him. Just something to keep in mind. Here comes that medevac advantage I was talking about. He's just going to run in here. These Marines have +1, but no stim. So it's going to make pushing the siege tank down a bit tougher, but he does burst it down. Both of them go down. A lot of SCVs being killed here. That one volley goes off on the siege tank, and the second siege tank's going to get a great shot as well. MarineKing doing some serious damage here. Even saving the medevac.
Does a bit of damage. He's still actually got some Marines in the mix.
If he targeted some of those SCVs, you guys can't see it, which is something that has been discussed thoroughly. I'm sorry about this. A lot of those SCVs are actually in the red, like down to less than 10 hit points. He could have actually like right-clicked on a few of them and killed them. Almost killed the siege tank instead. So worker count's now in favor of MarineKing, and he's moving his third CC down around the same time as FanTaSy, and he's still got this drop pressure out here. Gonna get scouted though.
Yeah, nice move towards the Watchtower by FanTaSy. Will unfortunately lose that Marine, but that is the price you pay for stopping that drop and being in position. So not the worst price. Here we go, sending out another Marine for the scout. He's got to get those tanks in position. It does now. Stim about to finish here for MarineKing. It's going to make this drop a lot stronger.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot scarier than the last one. Although FanTaSy does have a lot more units in position. He's going to drop on top of these siege tanks. I actually just wanted to snipe a tank and get out.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, that went poorly, and there are a lot of Vikings. This was
considerably less damaging than the drop before. I think he got one tank. That was about it. Loses 2 medevacs, a lot of Marines.
He didn't even get the tank, actually, I don't think.
Oh, wow, you're right.
He just... That went really badly for him, and there was a moment of indecision. You could tell where he was like, oh, do I commit to this tank or not? And then he stayed too long, and then he lost a medevac to the Vikings.
Yeah.
And now
Again,
FanTaSy's
what you were talking
ahead.
about before with the upgrades is actually still true. He is way ahead. Does have that 2-2 on the way here. Whereas FanTaSy is just barely finishing up that 1-1.
Yeah,
here.
He's going to be perpetually like a half a set of upgrades behind. And with Tank Marine versus Tank Marine, especially once the Marine count gets really high, like right now it's 38 Marines for FanTaSy, or 34 for MarineKing. Imagine that upgrade being applied to the highest DPS per second unit in the game, times 38. Like, having that upgrade lead in a fight is huge. It makes all the difference in the world.
Well, FanTaSy is about to finish up his +1/+1 here.
Yep, that's going to put them even.
Unfortunately, this is a really nice scout by MarineKing, sending out that SCV somehow with that weird player sense. I don't think he saw that from the Watchtower or anything, but he just knew to send that over there in case of a possible drop towards his third base.
And another great scan on exactly where FanTaSy's rest of his army is. That player sense, man. He wants to know if FanTaSy's actually going to commit to an attack at his natural. He doesn't want to get his refinery sieged up. Have an interesting siege here by FanTaSy. I think he was scared MarineKing was going to try to sandwich him or something because he doesn't know where the rest of MarineKing's army is. Now he scans and sees it. So what FanTaSy wants to do here is hit this refinery and hit some of these SCVs. Do this little Sejong siege up. Nice hit on that Widowmine. Almost kills the tank.
MarineKing only has 1 tank.
Yeah, he's like going almost pure bio. I mean, he's got a much heavier commitment.
Oh, man. Okay. So a nice drop coming over here. There's no protection for this. Going to catch 6, 7 SCVs and going to start pressuring here. And MarineKing, he's just going for an attack straight to the main base of FanTaSy.
This is how he likes to play it. This orbital may go down, actually. He's going to try to repair it. No, he's not going to get that repaired. And he's going to catch this army in the middle of the map. Oh, now he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He can't attack and he can't run away.
Attack because FanTaSy was in such a position where he would have reinforcements as well as his army that he knew was over towards the left side to sandwich. Unfortunately, FanTaSy is forced to attack first before his whole army is together.
Okay, MarineKing, upgrade advantage, a whole set here. Let's see what he can get done with it. Going in here, it's going to burst down this tank, and it's going to annihilate that small Marine force here with that huge upgrade advantage he has. But he's eating siege tank fire, and here come those FanTaSy reinforcements. This was a good idea, but it didn't pan out the way he wanted. He's just lost way too much at home to that drop. I mean, look at his minerals, actually. He was not actually spending his money very well during this time either.
No, he was not. He's still trying to make this drop work, but it's mainly medevacs at this point. Unfortunately, these tanks are not seats, and he's sniping a large amount of them. He gets 3 for 2 of those, and now he will be forced back.
So my take on this is MarineKing did about as much as he possibly could with that army. I mean, you couldn't ask for more with that small group of Marines, but he just lost too much at home for it. Like, his third base, he lost a ton of harvesters. He's 20 harvesters down right now. But FanTaSy might even have too many harvesters. He's got 71. He's just, I mean, look at this. Look at the map. King of Marines.
Yeah, man.
He has on the map
66
Marines.
But again, he's going against 6 tanks, and as his tank number begins to get bigger, FanTaSy does have to move back and fight with his tanks.
Can split Marines versus Banelings. Can he split them versus siege tanks? Not well enough.
FanTaSy is actually just taking fights outside of his siege tanks and still winning.
Yeah.
Because MarineKing wasn't actually fighting with all of his Marines at the same time.
MarineKing's falling apart here. His economy is trash. He's long distance mining from his third. FanTaSy could take a 4th base. He's got a sensor tower, so MarineKing's not going to be able to do any of those MarineKing versus Nada drops.
He never actually remade that as that CC at the 3rd base.
Nope.
There he goes. He finally puts it down, but it's a bit late now.
Can't afford his 3/3 upgrades either.
He's now down 70 supply.
FanTaSy's just going to swing the hammer, swing the sword to cut the head off of MarineKing here.
For MarineKing, he's going to do what he does best and try to go for a base trade. I feel like at this point, it's probably the only thing he can do. But he scans the reinforcements, and he's like, I can't even attack into this.
No. He's going to try to go for a sandwich instead. Well, there's not much to sandwich with. There's only a few Marines and some SCVs.
There's only like a bun on the bottom, not on the top. Here we go. Marines running into tank fire. He is fighting with some SCVs, but that's about it. GG. FanTaSy looking pretty good.
MarineKing making a lot of mistakes in that game, though.
True.
You know, running with his style and whatnot is flashy. It's cool. It's nice. But he did not respond to that drop well. And then he decided to move across the map. And in another matchup that would work really well, and in straight up bio versus bio when FanTaSy's not making 2 tanks sometime, if FanTaSy's doing the same style that MarineKing was doing, with less tanks, then maybe he could have actually tried to win the game because he had that upgrade advantage. But in TVT, when you try to base raid and your opponent's got tanks sieged up, you can't just win. Like, you actually can't break through there.
No, not really, unless you have like a sizable force of Marauders in the mix as well. But he only had Marines going up against all those tanks.